Hey everyone. As you know, I've been on the journey with the car, and I'm actually ready to start putting the engine back together. And in a lot of my conversations with folks, it occurred to me that a lot of people really don't know all the parts of an engine or how an engine really works. So I thought I'd take a few minutes and kind of show you what goes into building my engine, and also some of the changes we made so that you can better understand it. So here we go. Okay, this is what's known as an engine block. It's basically the absolute foundation of any engine. This particular one is the BMW M10 engine, which is just an internal designation. It's actually a really well-known engine block and was actually used in Formula One cars up until I think about 1980. So it's pretty much bulletproof. You really can't kill it, which is really great for what I'm going to put this thing through one day. You can see these gold discs that are here. They're actually all around the engine. And these are actually called freeze plugs. And what they do is they're actually part of the engine building process. When they build the block, they actually use sand moles to cast all of this, and these holes are left in there to help drain out the sand after the casting is done. And then they also have a secondary function, and that's if your coolant. So basically, if you look down in here, this is where the coolant runs through on pretty much any cars. Modern cars are the same way. So these plugs actually are there in case, for some reason, your coolant freezes, so that the water has somewhere to go. Because as we know, if it doesn't have anywhere to go, it's gonna basically crack your block, and we don't want that. So you can see where a lot of the attachments are going to go. The oil pump is over here. And then a lot of the other attachments that are going to go in the engine. Now, one of the things I did to modify the engine was I had it bored out, which means we went through and increased the actual displacement of each of the cylinders, and I took it to almost the maximum you can do on this particular engine. It depends on the engine how much you can do. The maximum you could do on this engine was 92 millimeters. I did 91 and a half. And I actually have a video that I'm going to put in like right about now that shows actually how they bore a cylinder out. Okay, so this is actually what a block boring machine looks like. And the goal of this, you can see those kind of blade pieces in the middle of that cylinder that basically will go up and down within the cylinder wall and will literally cut material out. Really neat to see. It leaves, if you look on the left cylinder, you can see how smooth and polished it is. That's step one, is to get it that smooth and polished. So this is actually taken at the machine shop where I had my work done, and here you can actually see how it works. So step two of this process is to put what's called cross-hatching into the cylinder walls. I'm going to be explaining in a second what the point of all that is, and what they're doing here is called honing. So it's a special tool, and you'll see when he moves his hand, that basically goes through and adds those scratches or that cross-hatching to the cylinder wall. And this is what that looks like. That's a lubricant there so that it's not dry metal on dry metal. And there you can see it. So hopefully that was interesting. It was really interesting for me to watch because I'd seen it on YouTube, but I had never been able to really see it in person. So that was really neat. So that's basically what the block is. And what the block is, its purpose is to hold everything I'm going to be discussing coming up next. Point in fact, there's actually two major parts of an engine. There's the bottom part of the engine, which is what we're going to be talking about today, and it's called the, wait for it, it's very technical, the bottom end. And then there's the part that goes on top of here, which is going to hold the valves and everything, and that's going to be a separate video. And since it's on the top of the engine, it's called the top end. So yeah, let's discuss what the other parts are. So here we have what's called a crankshaft, and the crankshaft is at the very, very bottom of the engine. And when I actually run a video of me building the engine, you'll be able to see where it fits into the engine, but it goes at the very bottom. And this is actually a new crankshaft I have. This is the original one, and there are some differences, even though it doesn't look like they're different. This is actually modeled after a later, more sports-tuned BMW called the M3. And so what they've done is they've what they call knife-edged the weights here. You can see that they're much more sharp than the kind of blunt ones on the original. The theory is that this allows the crankshaft, as it's going through the oil and getting lubricated, that it can go through it more streamlined and hydrodynamic. You can YouTube it if you're really interested. There's arguments all over the place. It just so happens that this is how they built it, and I'm fine with it. It certainly can't hurt. What else this crankshaft lets me do is build what's called a stroker motor. And I want to talk more about it when I talk about the pistons. But basically, the way that it rotates is a little longer than how this one rotates. So that's going to give me the ability to have more stroke, which I'll talk about with the pistons in a second, and is really the basis of the higher performance engine that I wanted to do. So moving on, here we have what are called pistons. This is actually the piston itself. This is the original piston from the car, the original car, and this is the new piston. Actually, I can show you. This is the actual piston itself. Now, these are forged pistons, and this is a cast piston. Most cars have cast pistons in them. They're cheaper to create. They can create them in larger quantities faster. These were actually custom made to accommodate the 91.5 millimeter bore. This is called the bore that we're going to be using. And when we did a test fit, it was beautiful in there. The machine shop guys did a great job. We also have, these are called connecting rods. I'll show you. This is called a connecting rod. And I'm going to get technical, but it connects the piston to the crankshaft. And these are longer than the stock ones. So that's also going to help with the stroker motor that I'm looking for. So what's going to happen is this is going to have the ability to throw the piston higher up and higher down. And this is longer, which is going to accentuate that. And what that does is it actually increases the displacement. So the displacement is basically the volume of those cylinders. And that's a simple calculation. And the original car had a 2-liter displacement. And I think we're going to be in the neighborhood of 2.3, maybe 2.4 liter when we're all done. Which on a car as light and as small as mine, that makes a big difference. And it's, again, part of the overall performance increase I'm looking for. When I talk about the top end parts, we'll be talking about some of the changes I've made there, and it's all part of the whole package. Interestingly, this piston, the original one, was called a piano top piston. Now, I'm going to get technical. Bear with me. But here's why. The top looks like a piano. See how complicated this stuff gets? It's crazy. So if you look here, the original had the same thing. If you look here, there are these grooves in there. And those grooves hold what are called piston rings. This is a sample of the piston rings. Each one gets 3. And basically the role of the piston rings is to help to seat the piston in the cylinder correctly and guide it, and also prevent oil from splashing past the piston and getting into, areas up here where it really doesn't belong. So critical pieces, and that's pretty much it. So as part of the construction of this, you can see that this has a pivot. So when we look at this goes into here, and this, which is called a wrist pin, goes in here, and then the piston, it runs into here. So that allows it to pivot this way, so when it's going up and down in the cylinder, it can pivot as it needs to, because we're running in a circular motion. One other thing I wanted to mention, and I wanted to show it here, because if you look inside the cylinder, and this will be highlighted in the machine shop video, but you can see that it looks all scratched up. And that's actually by design. That's called cross-hatching. And what it does is it helps to seat the piston rings and make sure that they're in there correctly. And it also helps to hold oil against the piston wall so that it doesn't drain down right away. So a very valuable feature. You're going to see the process it takes to make this. For me, it was super interesting. And that's pretty much all I have. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it wasn't too boring or long-winded. And more to come. Thank you.